Yo, once again, it's on. Back at you one more again, Real Kens TV and the House Like Kitchen Sinks. Hopefully you like the video. Feel free to comment, definitely share, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Hit that post notification. Anytime I bring you this action, this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive it. Now, with no further ado, let's get into this morning's video, if you will. For you all that haven't seen the couple videos that I dropped, I believe yesterday, I apologize. You know, I typically drop every day, at least every other day. And, you know, I went missing in action for a little while. I was sick. You know, I thought that I had COVID. Headache for like 3 days straight. Excruciating headache. Body was hurting. Just, you couldn't convince me that I didn't have COVID. But lo and behold, I didn't have COVID. So tonight's my first night back at work all week. Feel pretty good. Not all the way back, but, you know, I'm almost there. We getting there. So just now getting off work. It's about 12:46 a.m. my time. And I said, I got to holler at my peoples. They show me too much love, man. So much love to all the people that subscribe and follow me and watch my videos and helping to make my channel grow. So, you know, salute, much love to you. And I say, man, I got to jump on here and tell one of my stories. You know, before I go in the house, I got to do it. Just something that I have to do. But, you know, I was talking to a lady earlier, and her son is incarcerated. Unfortunately, he's a young dude. He's maybe 20, 24, 25, somewhere right around in that range. And she was telling me, she say, Real Kens, you know, none of us want our kids to be out here in these streets. None of us want our kids to be incarcerated. But more importantly, none of us want to be at our kids' funeral as a result of them being out here in these streets. So I sat and I just listened to her, and she told me something very, very interesting. Actually, I've heard my mother say it. And I would say that anyone that's been out there in them streets, their mother has probably said these same exact words. Although I don't like the fact that he's in jail, at least I know where he's at. That dreaded phone call that's destined to come when your kid's out there in these streets, these mean streets, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't have to worry about that at this particular time. I sleep better at night because I know that my son is safe. He's not in the best of environments. He's not in an ideal situation, but I know that he's safe. And I don't have to worry about logging on to Facebook, seeing RIP to my son before anyone's even told me. So I thought that was a very, very interesting thing that she told me, because I shared with her that, guess what? You're not alone. My mother told me the exact same thing. All the times I was out there running, you know, being a knucklehead or whatever, she knew that I was safe once I got incarcerated. Now it was up to him to decide that enough is enough, and that he's going to change his ways, change his life, so that hopefully he doesn't continue to, you know, be incarcerated. So with all that being said, it leads me to this morning's story. Oftentimes when you're incarcerated, you know, you sit around and you think about what you're going to do, all the things you're going to do when you get home. You know, you're writing things down, you're planning things. It's like, okay, when I first come home, within the first 30 days, I'm going to do this. Then by 60 days, I'm going to have this. Then by 90 days, 120 days, you know, you're planning things, and it's okay to put things down on paper. my thing is this. You have to have a backup plan because things are not always going to go as exactly, according to plan. They may go, but, maybe not as quick. Incarceration actually saves a lot of people. Young man that I have in mind right here, he was incarcerated for several years. I believe he had like a 60-year sentence. And it was for a murder charge. It was always rumored that this murder charge, he wasn't necessarily framed, but it wasn't him that actually committed the murder. There was always the general, word on the street, basically. It wasn't him. He spent several years in prison. This guy was he was a known dude in the streets, man. He was a known dude in the streets, and he was feared. I didn't really know him. I ran across him, but I didn't know him because he was younger than me. But the streets talk. He was feared in the streets. And he had a name for himself in the penitentiary. He had been to every penitentiary in Kentucky. It didn't matter. His name, when he showed up on the yard, his name held weight. He knocking dudes out, man. 6'6", 6'5", 6'7". He's knocking them out. I'm talking about knocking them out. He was real good with his hands. See, he just wasn't one of them dudes that was gonna tote the pistol. He actually knew how to use his hands. He was gifted with his hands. So he's in the penitentiary knocking dudes out, man. I'm talking about literally knocking them out. And all the while, he has this case in appeals. See, the way the appeal system works in Kentucky is you go to trial and you lose and you receive anything over 15 years, the appeal is automatic. So as I mentioned, I believe he had like 60 years, maybe 50. It was it was a lot of years. 50, 60 range. So the whole time, he never gave up. He's continued to fight his case. Real popular guy, in prison. Everybody respected him. Everybody. Even the dudes that wasn't even from the same city. Everybody knew this dude. You just don't want to get wrong with him. So after a long, I'd say, I don't know how many years, but it was a lot of years. I want to say maybe 9, 10 years. His appeal comes through. When his appeal comes through, he's going back and forth to court now. Because they put your case back into court. So once they put your case back into court, then you going back, you're literally back in court. So I don't know all the specifics of his case. So I don't want to get into, here at Real Kids TV, I only tell what I seen, or if someone's told me a story, it has to be something that's verifiable, and I'll verify it before I tell it, and it has to be accurate. So I don't want to jump on here and throw anything in the mix that I don't know to be true. I know that I ran across him one day. I was incarcerated, and they was bringing him from prison to court. I seen him a couple times, but like I said, we didn't know each other. I didn't know who he was really until, someone pointed him out. But at any rate, he you know, he was successful in getting his case back in the court, but it's still a process. Once you get your case back in court, you know, it's not like it just happens like that. It's still a process. Now, a lot of people think that when you're convicted, well, I'll give the time back. That's what they call it here. I'll give the time back. Giving time back means you get your case back in the court, and let's just say you get a 60-year sentence. Maybe you get it reduced down to 20. Say you got death row, but you get it commuted to life sentence. So you have a life sentence and you get it commuted to, you know, 20 to life. You see what I'm saying? So while that does definitely happen, I know guys walking the streets right now that was on death row. And eventually I'm going to get I'm going to have a sit down with him, hopefully. The real death row. Spent a lot of years on death row. For a crime, first of all, he didn't even commit. Allegedly, he hired someone to kill someone. But he didn't even do that. They was just saying that he did it. There was no evidence. There was no proof. There was no anything. They convicted him. They gave the killer like a life sentence, but gave him death row. He ended up beating the case because how are you going to give me... He ended up beating death row because how are you going to give someone that didn't pull the trigger more time than the person that pulled the trigger? So he was able to beat death row. So I believe his sentence got commuted to life. And then, you know, he kept battling. He kept, you know, it took him like 20 years. He kept battling. He kept appealing. So then he got commuted down to, I think, like a regular life sentence, because there's different life sentences. There's a life sentence that means life. Then there's a life to where you can still get out. I know it may sound confusing, but, you know, that's just what it is. So he's walking the street to this day. So, you know, I'll bring you all that interview, hopefully, real soon. But nevertheless, back to the subject at hand. The individual, you know, he was actually able to get his, you know, his case back in the court. So he's going back and forth to court or whatever. And the Commonwealth attorney, he wasn't hearing it. Y'all get a chance to Google Ray Larson. Ray Larson. Google Ray Larson. See who he is. Well, see who he was. He's no longer with us. But at the time, Ray Larson was just, he would tell you, I do not like criminals. I don't like inmates. I don't like felons. I think they're scum of the earth. I think that, you know, he just didn't like them. So he was adamant about not allowing this individual that I'm speaking of to give any of this time back. Now, when I was speaking about giving time back, only 5%, lost my train of thought for a second, but I reeled it back in. I realized it and I said, oh, let me get back to this, if you will. Only 5% of cases are successful as far as getting them back into court. So that means 95% of the time that you're sentenced, you're just sentenced. So a lot of people feel like, oh man, I'm going to give his time back. I mean, if you're fortunate, you will. But it's not guaranteed. It's nowhere near guaranteed. This particular situation, like I said, it was always said that he didn't do it anyway. The case was, you know, successful as far as getting it back into court. As time went on, they was going back and forth to court. I guess they came up with a number that everybody was satisfied with. So instead of the case just being dismissed, he settled on a certain number. When I say he settled on a certain number, let's just say he had 10 years in. And they say, okay, we still want the conviction. We know that we're ultimately going to lose because his appeal, you know, was on point. Very accurate, very, you know, well submitted. So, plead guilty to 15 years. Now, I'm not saying that that number's accurate, but it's somewhere right around it. Plead guilty to 15 years. Well, if you plead guilty to 15 years, guess what? I've already done 10. My time's up. It's time to, I got to go home. I'm ready to go home. That's what happened in this situation. Out the door. Gone home. It's a big celebration when he hits the streets. Big celebration. I mean, after all, people thought that they would never see this guy ever again. Certainly, if they did see him again, he'd be, you know, an older gentleman. He was still in his 30s when he got out. He was still in his 30s. And I want to say he was in his young 30s. So he was out. And a situation had happened to where I don't want to tell too much of the story because, you know, it's a sensitive matter and I don't want his family to see this and think that, you know, so I don't want to get too specific, rather. It's public record, but still I don't want to get too specific on the story. But I will say a situation happened to where he felt like someone had violated his family member. His family member, you know, called him, told him of the situation, made him aware of the situation. So he showed up. Now, mind you, this guy had a impeccable reputation in the streets. So even though he had been gone for a decade, people still knew who he was. And if they didn't know firsthand, they heard who he was. So nobody really wanted to try him, especially with the hands. It's just the danger in fighting these days. Back when I came up, if you had a problem with somebody, y'all might fight, then y'all cool the next day, a couple of days later. You all cool. Now, there is no fighting. Because nobody can take a loss. You think you just gonna beat me up? All these girls out here? Everybody out here and you gonna just beat me up? People laughing at me? My eyes black, my nose busted, and I'm just gonna take that on the chin? Pause. Okay, you win. Next thing you know, he's coming back with that thing, that heat, that heater. That's just how it works now. So nobody even bothers fighting. Nobody bothers to fight now. Because the people that can fight, they like, why fight? Because I know what's going to happen. And the person that can't fight, you can't fight. So what am I going to fight for? I don't know how to fight. I never had to fight. But I know how to squeeze that trigger. I know how to do that. So there's a lot of that going on. So he shows up to handle the situation in which his family member called him and informed him about. He roughs the dude up, you know, smacks him around or whatever. And evidently, he didn't understand that a lot of years has passed. Or perhaps he understood, but he just thought that, you know, maybe dude wasn't going to really do anything. I don't know what he thought. So like I said, he roughs him up. You know, nothing too bad. Probably hurt his pride, his ego. A time later, and I have to be very, very careful with this. So I'll just put it this way. A time later, after that, not long, too much longer after that, he was found gunned down. He was found gunned down in the streets. And I never will forget that when I looked on the news and I seen it, because I was still incarcerated when it happened, and I was like, wow. I just seen him in court maybe, I don't know, a year ago. If that. It could have been a year, it could have been 15 months. I don't remember exactly. It was a while ago, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. I had just seen him in court no more than a year and a half ago. Then I'm looking on the news and I'm seeing that he had been gunned down. Very, very well-respected young man. Well-liked young man. He had an opportunity to do something different in life because he was granted a second chance in life. I'm no judge. I sit low like everybody else sits low. Granted, a lot of people, the way they act, you would swear up and down they sit high and look down. I don't look down on anyone. Who am I? One of my favorite sayings, I don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. So who am I? I have my own situations that I have to, work on, accommodate. So I can't sit around and talk about what a person should have done, could have done. Because I'm no better than anyone else. Some time went on and there was a few gentlemen, and I think they ultimately, were arrested and convicted. I believe they all took plea deals. They didn't really have a whole lot of evidence. And it was just a sad situation that happened. And again, I'm leaving a lot out because, out of respect of the family. Because the thing about YouTube, man, you never know who's going to see the videos, and you don't want to come across as, insensitive. So therefore, I'm just kind of giving you all the, I'm not really painting the full picture as I typically do. But I'm sure that you all can understand exactly what I'm saying. And there's a moral to what I'm saying. There's a moral to what I'm saying. When you're in prison, you have to take that time to reflect. And you have to understand that I'm in prison for a reason. Outside of if you're just totally innocent and they just threw you in there. Which is not typical. It happens. There are innocent people in prison, but the majority of people in prison are clearly not innocent. You have to take that time to better yourself. Not to blame everybody else, but to just understand, first of all, you know what you did to get in prison, but what did I do to put myself in a predicament to where, I put myself in a predicament to where I did this, which landed me in prison. How can I prevent that? Because when you're in prison, we all say, I'm never going back. I said that the first time. Went back. Said it again. Went back. Stupid is as stupid does, man. If you run your head into this brick wall 100 times, guess what? 100 times you probably gonna knock yourself out or hurt yourself. You're not gonna knock the brick wall down. Just not gonna happen. So you have to understand and do a whole lot of self-evaluating. Evaluate yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Take responsibility for your actions. And figure out, okay, we know that you don't want to come back. None of us want to go back to prison. So how am I going to prevent myself from coming back? What am I going to do? Yeah, you come up with a plan. As soon as your plan don't work in 60 days, you right back out there in the streets. That's why I said initially, or early on, rather in the video, you may come with a plan, but it may not go according to plan or as quickly as you want it to go. So you have to have several different alternatives, if you will, because life hits you. It's easy when you're in there. You're not paying any electric. You're not paying any gas. You're not paying any water. You're not paying for groceries. You're not paying rent, mortgage, car payment, insurance, kids, daycare, sports, activities. You see what I'm saying? Health insurance, life insurance, maintenance on the house, if you have a house. And what other bills that come along, the car repairs. So you don't have any of those responsibilities when you're locked up. So you hear a whole lot of people say, 3 hots and a cot. And it's sad because some people really, really feel that way. Some people really, really feel that way. Well, the people that feel that way, you take your 3 hots and a cot. Me, I'm going to take my chances out here in this free world and figure out a way. It's not going to be easy on you. You're a felon. Once you're a felon, man, it's not going to be easy for you. It's not. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm not looking for a pity party. Just find a way. We're all good at something. Sometimes we may not know what we're good at, but we're all good at something. And you take that and you practice it and you practice it, and eventually it's going to turn into something financial, monetary. But you can't jump into it just solely for that. For instance, like my YouTube, the videos that I make. People tell me all the time how you make such great content. You make, good videos. And I'm not even editing my videos. I'm not doing all the tricks and the, things flashing on the screen and, to keep your attention. No, because if you want to hear my story, you're going to listen to my story. I'm not trying to, any trickery, dokery. No, this is real life. This is real talk. It's real Ken's TV. Trust me, I see videos that 15,000 views in in a day, half a day. 30,000 views, in a few days. I see all of those things. My video may get 80 views. But guess what? I appreciate those 80 views. I sincerely appreciate those 80 views. So you have to appreciate what you have. My granddaddy, before he passed, man, rest in peace, he always told me, you can't worry about what everybody else has. You got to worry about what you have. Can't worry about what everybody else is doing. And I know that if you just keep grinding, working, putting in the effort, keep putting the videos out. It's like my granddaddy's talking to me. I hear his voice in my head. Keep putting them videos out, son. Because eventually, they're going to catch on. They're going to catch on. But right now, you only 5.5 months in, 6 months. You got to be patient. You can't have what Jay Williams has right now. No disrespect. Shout out to Jay Williams. I've seen his video today. Y'all check it out if you haven't seen it, which I'm sure you have. But he dropped a video. Y'all check that Jay Williams out. But you can't have what some of these other YouTubers, man, they've been on the grind for years. You just started. These guys got 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 subscribers. So you can't do what they're doing. Your numbers are not going to look like their numbers look. And I recognize that, and I'm glad that he told me that a long time ago. That's why I'm not envious. That's why I do nothing but salute and congratulate. Because guess what? I know my time is coming. My time is coming. I don't have to jump online and degrade a person and laugh at their downfalls when they're going through a difficult time just for some views. For some views, never have, never will. It's just not going to happen. So all of that is relative for the simple fact of when you come out of prison, you have to come out understanding that you're starting at the bottom of the food chain and you got to work your way up. You have to work your way up. You don't have a car? I understand you're going to see people riding by in big Suburbans and big, big trucks with, big wheels and 30-inch. I get it. I get it. But do you want the temporary love that you're going to receive out here in these streets? Or the longevity as far as being out here with your family and your loved ones and your kids and, so forth? Because all that street life is short-lived. So when you're in prison, man, you take that time to develop a plan, a solid plan, and you have to stick with that plan. But it's not going to work without whoever your higher power is. Your higher power has to be first. It's not going to work without it. That's just the truth. I'm not on here to preach. I'm not on here, but that's the truth. Whoever your higher power is has to be first. So when this individual that I'm speaking of, when he got out of prison, it seems as though he kind of drifted back into the streets. Because first of all, if a person knows that, the things that you've gone through, and God has blessed that individual to get back out, why would you call that person when you're having a problem? Not his situation, it's your situation. Why would you call him to come and handle your situation? And look what happens in the end. Look what happened in the end. Because you called him, he loves you, so he's going to come and handle the situation for you, which didn't have anything to do with him, per se. Look how it turns out. You have to have your mind right and understand that God gave me a second chance. As much as I want to go and handle this for this person that I dearly love, I got to stay out of it. I got to stay out of it. Because I got the most to lose. Me jumping into this situation, I got the most to lose. Not you, not him, not them. Me, I got the most to lose. I'm already most hated. As soon as I slip up and people going to try to, they're going to try to dear me. Dear me, for the people that may not know, longevity, they're going to try to stretch me out. They're going to try to, give me the most time they can give me. That's what it means, I understand that I'm talking to a whole lot of, just different people that may not understand a certain lingo because of where I'm from. Same way I may not understand some of the lingo as far as where you're from. So I try to clarify and break everything down respectfully. And with all of that being said, it just all goes back to what the young lady was saying earlier. I don't like the fact that my son is in jail, but at least I know where he's at. Sometimes, man, when you're sitting in there, you're sitting in that jail cell, that prison cell, it's that opportunity for you to tune everything out and get your mind right. You got to get your mind right. Because if you don't, you see what can possibly happen. Now, it can happen to anybody, so don't get me wrong. I'm not, no disrespect whatsoever. There's no fault of his as far as, who wouldn't want to get out of prison? Who wouldn't? But sometimes, I've seen it many, many times. My own nephew got out of prison, Wasn't ready really to get out. Didn't have his mind right. You know, less than a year, man, he shot and killed. So, you know, you have to have your mind right while you're in there, or get your mind right. Because if you come right back out and go to the same exact thing, feel me? Things happen in these streets, these mean streets. Definitely praying for their brother's family. Even now. This was some years ago, even now. Praying for his family, you know, and just praying for our youth, man. Praying for just... It has to be a better way than this gun violence. It has to be. That's why I jump on here. That's why I talk about this. Anybody that's willing to listen, I'll talk to you. Has to be a better way than prison or death. That's where you hit it. Prison or the graveyard. That's where you hit it. I'm tired of seeing mothers cry. Real Kens TV. Hopefully you liked the video. Feel free to definitely comment. Tell me what you think. Definitely share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. You know what I mean? That post notification anytime I bring you this action, this heat, be amongst the first to receive. I think I'm relax the rest of the evening, or the morning rather. It's 1:22 a.m. Might drop another video, might not. Who knows? First night I feel kind of decent, you know, within the last, week? Close to a week. It's going to be a great weekend, hopefully. You know, Lord willing. The man up above, man willing. My everything. 49ers and Dallas Cowboys play Sunday. I got to work. Wonder how this going to work out. Is a cough coming on? You know how people call in work? Yeah. Let me speak to the manager. Oh, man, I feel terrible today. I might not make it. It might be me Sunday. I got to see my 49ers and my Cowboys. Nah, I'm going to go to work, do the right thing. I'm blessed to have a job, man. Real Kens TV, man.